Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Embrace Live. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine. Let me just tell you, I'm joining you from a very hot and sticky, I must admit, Dixon Towers kind of studio here, because in my wisdom, my studio, my home office is in my conservatory. And unfortunately, it's a conservatory without one of those wonderful, cool kind of roofs and things like that. It's a proper conservatory, which means I'm rather hot. All right, which is fantastic because I've spent all day teaching in a hot computer suite as well, which was about 30 degrees. So I'm really enjoying the weather personally. But there we go. Hopefully you're tuning in somewhere much cooler, feeling much more relaxed. I've got my fan on. I've actually left the door open with the blinds closed, so things could happen. You can get random sounds, and even my dog might even appear from outside. And then so we'll see what happens. Anything could happen in this episode. We should see. Welcome. I'm laughing here already because I can see Mr. Saxton is straight in there with his comments. And just to confirm, Paul, yes, I've had a bit of a trim. B&Q were open at the weekend, so I popped into the gardening department there just for a little kind of removal of the with the angle grinder, I think it was, with the hair and stuff like that. So thanks for noticing. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. Just welcome to Embrace Live. If you haven't joined us before, thanks for tuning in. It's great to have you with us. We always want to make these informal and relaxed, so we tend to go for about an hour or so. We tend to wrap up about 9, and rather than listening to my voice and so on, we've got another fantastic guest tonight. We'll pop over and we'll see Martin from 313. Let me just start. It's never a good way to start, but let me just start with a bit of an apology, because in my kind of publicising of the event, I've called the organisation that Martin works with and so on by its older title. All right, so 313 is the title of the organisation, so that's my fault and I apologise for that. We'll hear, and thankfully we'll have the expert himself talking more about the organisation, what it does, and we'll make sure that we correct those kind of things as we go through, because I realise I've put it in a few of the titles and stuff. I'm just looking across at my other monitor and just hoping that Martin is going to forgive me for that one. I'm hoping for some kind. He's nodding. That's reassuring. That's all right. He's not going to come around and brick my windows. We've made progress there. Not that he's that kind of guy anyway. So if you haven't come across Embrace Live, this is a live stream. We do it on a weekly basis, most weeks. And, being a teacher, I've said this previously, I like to have a bit of a break during the kind of, school holidays and things like that if we can. But we've got, guests lined right up until kind of the beginning of August time. We have a bit of a break in August for, a few weeks and things like that, a bit of holiday, family holiday and a few other events I'm involved with. And then we come back in September with a vengeance and so on. So let me just, whilst I'm talking about what's coming up, let me just say there's some of the wonderful people that we've had so far, and we've got lined up. And, I said this over the last couple of weeks as well. I want to say it again, just in case you haven't caught this message. It looks from that image that all this is about it's like a really badly put together boy band, isn't it, by the looks of those kind of images. And Martin, you're right in the middle actually, so obviously you're the foundation, the linchpin of this group, and I've made a kind of point that actually it's not just about the fellas. There are so many, and I'm really thankful and I'm fortunate to know so many amazing women of God. And so what I've done practically is gone out and in the last few weeks and said, right, September is about here comes the girls, here comes the women of God. So that's how it's kind of just to even things up a little bit. And of course, it's just who's available on what date, and it's just how it's fallen, really. There's no kind of agenda there. But I do want to kind of just address that, because it can seem that it's a little bit kind of male heavy focused and things like that. All right. So in the interest of balance, let's obviously we just want to hear about people who are on fire for God. To be honest, doesn't matter whether male or female or whoever it is. That's what we want. But we are going to do that anyway. So, if you've joined us for the first time, let me just kind of introduce myself. My name's Dave Dixon, and I have the privilege of being part of Embrace Church in Darlington and part of the leadership team there. And it's great to just see how much God is on the move. And Embrace Church, or Embrace Live, started out at Embrace Church because, like many churches, during the lockdown kind of period, we had to find new ways of meeting. So a lot of churches went online and have continued to do so, which is what's happened here. And so we just kind of do this midweek, kind of hopefully encouraging hour. We always try and make it live. So I can see people are, kind of starting to comment on my other monitor here, which is great. So we already know that Mr. Saxton's a regular viewer and he's online, so it's great. Paul, thanks for joining us. And then obviously we get the witty banter coming from him. We'll maybe make reference to that a little bit later on. Sue's joined us as well. Sue, Mama Sue, as I like to call her, is a great member of Embrace Church. It's brilliant to have her with us as well, and many others as well joining us. We kind of if live if we can. But if you're catching up, you're more than welcome as well. And obviously, that's the beauty of these kind of streams, isn't it? That we don't delete them. They are available. This is about episode 42, I think. It'd be great if you would. I was just thinking today, why not kind of, look back at the episodes that we've got and maybe pick out somebody's story that's really kind of resonate and share it with somebody that you know. Why don't you just kind of do that? That's not like in a way of kind of honestly publicising the show. Yeah, that helps, all right, because we want this to reach as many people as possible. But we want to encourage people. We want ultimately people to know Jesus and see just how God is impacting using his church in the community of Darlington, not just Darlington, but the Tees Valley, the North East, the UK, the world. And that's what this is about, really. It's kind of evolved from Embrace Church thing to really about celebrating that God is on the move. And he is, through his church, taking ground and impacting the community. But if you will indulge me just for a moment, we're really excited as Embrace Church, really excited. Because, we've kind of, as always, like churches and so many people that we know, we're really excited to be part of, one church. And that's with a capital C, because there is only one church. There's just lots of expressions and flavours of that. Okay, and we're part of the Taking Ground family, kind of churches in the kind of northern region of the UK, and with Tees Valley Community Church, we've had Miles on recently from Middlesbrough Community Church, and many others as well. But we're really excited, if you indulge us as a church, as Embrace Church, because we're on the move, because we are going to a place in Darlington still. We're still going to be very much rooted in Darlington. We meet quite in the middle of Darlington, right in the centre, but we're just shifting slightly that we are going to the Red Hall estate as part of Darlington, and we're really excited about that because, it's just, there's just so many people there, who are experiencing lots of difficulties, challenges in everyday life, lots of different things, and we are going to be based, and we're so thankful for God's provision and all this, at Red Hall Community Centre. Sophie, the manager there, is not a Christian, but she is amazing. She's a real champion for us already, and really excited about what we're going to do based in that church as well. But we are, based in that church, because actually it's a building, but we are the church, the people, and we are focusing on people. So we're really excited. They can see some of the kind of promo kind of publicity stuff, but 3rd of July, Sunday the 3rd of July, a couple of weeks time, we are going to be there for the first time. So we are praying about opportunities are presenting themselves already. We want to work in partnership with local Christian organisations, charitable organisations, to really impact that area of Red Hall Estate and beyond, of course, for Jesus. And again, we want to see revival break out in that area and beyond. So please join us in terms of praying for that. Join us if you can physically. If you want to come and check us out and have a look and just visit, come, hopefully you might visit. Not that we're into nicking people from other churches, that's not what it's about, but we would love you to come and join us and maybe visit, and some of you might stay as well. But we are going after people who don't know Jesus currently. We are going after the lost, and through Jesus, through the Holy Spirit, we are going to bring and demonstrate his practical love in the area of Red Hall. Hopefully you can kind of pick up on my enthusiasm. We use the word buzzing. We are really excited to see what God's going to do, and we are privileged to be a part of that. Okay, just looking over across to my comments, I can see that they are really kind of going through. It looks pretty much from like a conversation between Sue and Paul at the minute. So if there's anybody else online, that'd be great. Please feel free to kind of add your comments and so on. I've been talking a lot. I tell you what, why don't we for a moment? Why don't we just go over to Martin just to say hello, because I've referenced him a few times, and let's just do a quick kind of hello to Martin. Here we are. Hi Martin, how you doing? You all right?
Hi, good evening. Nice to see you.
Good stuff. Are you well? Are you okay?
Yeah, it's been a warm day, so feeling quite quite sort of warm at the moment. I've got the windows open a bit like you, so trying to get that breeze in. But it's been a fantastic day.
So before we go any further, do you accept my apology for the Academy Gate, as kind of
Oh,
references?
do you know what? It's we changed the name from Academy 313 to 313 probably about 2.5 years ago.
Right.
Don't worry, it's that the old name still pops up here and there everywhere, and even tonight we found somewhere it's sort of hasn't been changed. So, but that's often what happens with a bit of rebranding.
Yeah.
There's historical stuff around. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I'm only 2 years or so out of date. So anyway, I will try my best to be more up to. I always like, and just before we go any further, because I like to do this, I always like it when people are kind of against a background of shelves full of books and files and things. I always like to ask the same question: have you read them all? Are they all yours?
Well, I did check before I came online
Good.
just to make sure everything was good up there. I mean, there's my School of Applied Theology folder,
Yes, good plug.
the Word Plus folder. Yeah, I think there might be a folder of bills as well, which isn't quite as interesting.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to chat for a few moments more, if that's all right, and then we're going to come back to you, and obviously we're going to kind of get through and see, who you are and what the work of 313 is, and we want to hear your story as well, those kind of things. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks again for being on tonight. We really appreciate that, because I know people have to give up a bit of their evening and things and so on. So bear with me. I'm going to come back in a moment. All right. So as always, we want to. We want to kind of make this as interactive, and I was pausing there. Sorry, there's a trip over another comment by Mr. Saxon, just to say, I don't know if you can see that, Martin. I know you're off camera at the moment, but already he's kind of just wondering about your integrity there and making comments and casting the stones and things like that, because he can confirm apparently that those files are all for show, and in fact they are empty and just kind of product placement and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll come on. When you come back on, you can maybe defend yourself a little bit. But it's easy, isn't it, to be sat at home, isn't it, Mr. Saxton, as a little bit of a keyboard warrior? There we go. So no. We enjoy the banter. We do, and I'm sure you're only joking. I really am. All right, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of a leaders kind of intro, and then we're going to be live with Martin, and we'll kind of chat with him and see where we get to. All right, thank you. Here we go. And here we are, right. I could see you on my other monitor. You were grabbing some files and folders. Are you going to make a point?
I was. Yeah. Just for Paul, look, there is a folder. I admit, if I picked up the one next to it, that one was empty.
We'll let you off. It's absolutely fine. Just to say, actually, it's just seamless, isn't it? But the School of Applied Theology is absolutely superb. We had Mike Bowman on the other week, and if you haven't seen that episode, please do. Mike's an amazing guy, and the whole team are who run the School of Applied Theology. But if you want to know more, because they are taking applications for the next round in September, well worth doing it. Again, what am I? I'm on year 2, going into year 3. Although it messes with my OCD because I've done year 1, then 3, and I'm going back to 2. I feel as if I've been kicked back a year, but there we go. It's a funny thing called COVID got in the way of all of that, and lockdown and so on. So again, well worth having a look at that, and we'll maybe put some kind of details on, and we'll plug that again. So right there. So Martin, thank you. Sorry, I seem to have rambled on already, and it's 8:15 now. I really want to give you as much time as possible. Martin, why don't you kind of put yourself into context a little bit for those people who haven't met you before? Who are you? What do you kind of do? I know it's gonna, when I say for a day job, it's going to kind of roll over into what we're going to talk about, I'm sure, in more so, but in a kind of brief kind of introduction, or so, tell me who you are. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, so I work for 313, and I'll sort of explain a bit more depth about them in a
Yeah.
minute. I'm the employer engagement officer, so I do a bit of a mixture of things there. I'm often referred to the guy deals with ins and outs. So I'm responsible for getting people in.
Yeah.
So sort of going out and sort of selling the service to people, and then getting people out the door, helping people find jobs.
Yeah.
So I'm a qualified careers advisor.
Right.
So that's what I sort of do during the day. And then I'm very much involved in Tees Valley Community Church and head up their tech ministry team there.
Yeah, yeah. Which is where I've met you before. That's how I came
Yes.
across you. Obviously being fortunate enough to being invited on occasion and being part of the team to kind of play the guitar and
Yeah,
kind of
I think I've mixed sound for you before. So,
yeah. I kind of wondered, how you kind of got into that, and so it'd be good to kind of hear how you kind of get. We won't get into too much music techie stuff because people get a bit bored of that, But, certain people, I love it. We could talk about this forever,
We could talk all evening, couldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be good to kind of know a little bit that, obviously what how you came to Tees Valley Community Church, amazing church that it is, and like I say, that's very much part of the Taking Ground family, of which Embrace Church is part of, and so on. But like you say, largely we want to focus on 313, don't we? Because that's a very impressive title, Employer Engagement Officer. Is that?
Yeah.
Did I get just?
We change it on a daily basis, really.
Yeah.
Depending on T-boy, employment officer. Yeah.
Right. So ins and outs, T-boy, and engagement officer, and so on like that. And I do believe that a good friend of mine, Helen Malborn, came and joined you as your team. Is that right? Recently?
Yes. Yeah, she's joined recently. Helen's been a fantastic addition to our team. We love Helen. She's been with us. Do you know what? It's probably about a month now. It only feels like a couple of weeks in one sense, but already she's making some fantastic changes at 330.
She's an amazing individual in lots of different ways, isn't she? Like I said, I know through education, I'm a primary teacher, and I've Helen. I've worked with Helen previously, and a great role, and then obviously to move on from headship like she has done to kind of 313 is amazing. Obviously, I'm sure. I don't think the pictures I've seen. I don't think she stopped smiling yet. But that maybe that's a reflection. I don't go into too far into the politics and education at this point. But anyway, it's a great new season for her, and obviously I'm pleased to hear that she's really doing the good stuff as part of the team there and so on. So, Mark, before we get into the 313, obviously you mentioned that, and that's really what we want to kind of hear. The majority of what tonight is, not that I want to kind of script it in any way, but it'd be great to hear your own personal story, really, about how you kind of got to the point. And I normally ask the same general three questions which we often hear, isn't it? It's like, what was life like before, for wherever you were, whatever you were doing, and then we kind of arrive at that point. What were the circumstances around it where you made a decision to commit your life then going forward, to Jesus, and accept him in it as who he is, the Holy Spirit, encountering the Holy Spirit, and then dedicating your life, and absolutely no doubt that 313 is a big part of that, I'm sure, and God's using you amazingly, you and the team through that. So why don't you just give us a, maybe, I don't want to say a brief, but again, I just want to turn it over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, so it's quite funny, isn't it, when you start thinking back over your life, and particularly what God's done. And actually, it was great just preparing for this evening, just really remembering just some awesome stuff that God's been doing in my life. And a lot of it started when I was young. My parents were Christians, so I was brought up going to church. I think we were in a Methodist church, with the pews and the hymn books back in those days, and then
come on.
I rebelled a bit when I was a teenager. Did the usual thing. Said I'm not going to church anymore. And then unusually, I met a guy at school, a guy called Chris, and he said, "Look, we go to the local Baptist church. Why don't you come along with us?" And ended up going to Boys Brigade. I don't even know if Boys Brigade still exists, but it was run more like a youth club. And I think once a year we used to have to don our uniform and do the parade through town. But other than that, it was just a really good laugh. But anyway, I started going to this Baptist church, and I thought, for all intents and purposes, I was a Christian. I've been going to church. I knew the songs. I could, stand there every Sunday morning thinking I'm doing my bit.
Yeah.
But then we had a guy called Grantley Watkins, who used to work for Youth for Christ. He's one of the leaders in New Frontiers down in Norfolk, which is where I was living. And Grantley came and preached the gospel at the church,
Yeah.
and literally God got hold of me instantly. And I remember at the end of the service, I said, put your hand up, and my hand shot up as quickly as possible, to make a commitment of faith.
Amazing.
And literally everything changed from that day. It was probably I think I remember this youth group I was in. Suddenly, I was serious about God, and which I got a lot of stick for that, because there was a lot of people going to church in the youth group,
Yeah.
but they weren't quite there. So anyway, I ended up that summer going on a sort of a mission. It was a summer mission with Youth for Christ, and during that mission, I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. Came back to this Baptist church, speaking in tongues, and
Wow.
it was just amazing. But to cut a long story short, really, I was at the time studying at college, studying electronics, and due to bad health, I had to drop out of college. And there was an opportunity to go and work for Youth for Christ for a year, sort of a year out team.
Wow.
And I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to do it. And so I went and did it for a year. 7 years later, I was still there.
Really?
We used to have a double-decker bus. It was called Street Life. It was part of Youth for Christ in Norfolk. And we used to drive it all around the country. We used to take it to places like Glastonbury Rock Festival, various other events. And basically, I was a detached youth worker. And I remember on my 21st birthday, I jumped into the driving seat of this double-decker bus, and I used to drive it everywhere. So it was brilliant.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. And during that time, I wasn't paid. I was what we call living by faith. I had a few people sort of saying, we'll support you each month. But actually, that was great. As a young guy in my 20s, God taught me some foundational things about trusting Him,
Yeah.
and I really feel like my life, my journey has been it's been built on that foundation about trusting God, and throughout that 7 years, God never let me go without, not once, and
Amazing.
and many times sort of going forward, it's been the same. So yeah, I worked for Youth for Christ for 7 years. Then felt God calling me out of that. I then got into the world of print and publishing.
Right.
Did that for about 14 years, and then God called us up to Teesside, and at the time I was involved in a New Frontiers church plant in a small town called Attleborough, not far from Norwich, about 35,000 people.
Right.
So I was part of the leadership team there, and we used to, and we saw some amazing things happen, absolutely amazing things. Whole families getting saved, and so we're involved with that. We're working with a guy called Adam Bradley and a few others, and actually it was a great time of my life.
Yeah.
But we thought, actually we'd be there forever, church planting, in Norfolk. And then one day God said, I want you to move.
Wow.
And yeah, and literally we had some friends coming up to Teesside, so we just said, "Oh, why don't we do that?" And so put the house on the market. 10 weeks later, we were up here. Didn't have a job to go to or anything, and again, it was just that step of faith. God said, "Move." We moved.
That's
And
amazing. It really is.
yeah,
10 weeks.
so we came up
Wow.
here, 10 weeks, arrived, landed on I think it was the week before we moved, and ended up getting landing a job, a charity called the Hope Foundation, Christian charity in Middlesbrough. And we moved on the Thursday, and I started work on the Monday. And effectively, the charity was about giving people qualifications, helping people get jobs, and I went from a graphic designer to a qualified careers advisor, and
Wow.
that progressed. Ended up working for the National Careers Service for 8 years, and doing all sorts of amazing things like appearing on National Radio One,
Really?
representing the careers service. I think my Pete Waterman, I met him at a few events, and it was. yeah, it was just weird.
Amazing.
But what was great, God had given me some prophetic in Norfolk. As a graphic designer, in this small church, God said, a prophetic word for a guy called Keith Hazel, and basically said, you're going to be you, and God's going to use you, and I see you sitting in front of classes of people, teaching them about things like budgeting and stuff like that. And I was like, I've never taught anything in my life,
Wow.
and literally within 2 years, I was teaching workshops in job centres. I run workshops at 313, not necessarily around budgeting, but it's about employability
Yeah.
skills,
Yeah.
employment, which is changing people's lives financially. So it's been a real amazing adventure. Sort of getting up
Wow.
to tea. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I love these shows because I mean, basically, I go down, my friends list on that I've got to know of people I've met over the years and things, um, and I've said this a few times, and I just kind of go through and I say, oh yeah, yeah, they might be good, yeah, yeah, absolutely, and not that there's a strict selection process. It's we'll have anybody on, no, but it's obviously like people I've met over the years, and what I love about these is actually because you never get to know because like yourself, Martin,
yeah,
we've met before a few times, but we've been doing the job. We kind of been,
that's it.
and you don't
That's
get
it.
to know
Yeah,
each other. So it's just I
yeah,
love these because it's opportunities. Like Johnny Mumby, for example, the other week. I've known Johnny for years, and we've done the kind of worship stuff together. But it was just great to hang out with him, and just have a chat.
yeah,
Like I say, I often forget actually there's other people watching. So
yeah.
it's just great. It's just like
I, I yeah, love getting to know people and
yeah,
hearing people's stories. I mean, and that's the great thing about living with God. Everybody's got a story, a God story,
yeah.
and I haven't met one person yet who hasn't got an amazing story when God's
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's amazing, obviously, just to hear you. It's just kind of, I mean, I can certainly relate to the Boys Brigade thing because, I originally was, funny enough, a Baptist church as well. Was encouraged to go with a couple of lads that I knew to go to, and my parents started going to that church,
Yeah,
so I went to
yeah,
Boys Brigade, I think about once or twice, but then went to the service and realised that actually there was more girls at that point because I was a teenager in the services and the youth group, so I forgot the Boys Brigade stuff. Not that I was a hit with the ladies or anyway, I wasn't, but I was interested. And then, obviously, so I can relate to that, but then it's great to hear like you say, getting involved in church plants, but and Norwich area and things like that. But then I was going to ask you that question: what brought you up to the northeast, to the mighty Teesside? But in 10 weeks, that's really, obviously God. I mean, you were quite definite there, and clearly
yeah,
you knew God was speaking to you at that point
yeah,
because to put that into practice and within 10 weeks be here and move and everything and not really knowing like you say steps of faith and
yeah,
and in between that, coming from living for a number of years, as you say, in steps of faith, I think it's really good that you got to drive that bus. I would have loved to have driven that bus as well.
yeah.
And what a highlight that is. How did you know? Let me ask you a question. How did you know then that God was speaking to you so clearly, and again, amazing faithfulness from yourself
Yeah,
to say, we know it's God. We're going to do
yeah,
this. God's got us, and He's got plans for us and to prosper us,
yeah.
and we want to do that. How did you know God was speaking to you then at that point so
Yeah,
definitely?
I think one, it was a crazy idea,
Yeah,
and I often find God speaks through crazy stuff. It's like if I would never think about moving to Teesside, and to be honest, I had to look it up on the map.
yeah,
I had to look up and say, where is Teesside? Where is Middlesbrough?
yeah,
Where is Stockton? And looked it up, and ended up coming for a weekend up here just to have a look around first, but. It was one of those things that once God had planted that thought in my mind, it wouldn't leave.
yeah,
It was. I hear people sort of say things like they know it in their knower. It's that gut feeling,
yeah,
and actually just get that had that overwhelming gut feeling. And when I feel God's calling me to do something, that's how I feel.
yeah,
Um, and then it was like the little things. So I turned the television on, and the BBC News or the weather was coming from to have a picture of Middlesbrough, the weather in Middlesbrough today,
right, yeah,
or the news story that a few days later it mentioned Stockton on Tees, and I'm thinking, well, that's bizarre.
yeah,
um, and then you talk to somebody who just in conversation would just randomly mention Teesside, and you're thinking, well, where's that come from? You've never mentioned that before, without me instigating it. So
Yeah.
actually, God would put lots of, and I call them signposts,
Yeah.
and it's they're and when I start, feeling God like that, it's like, actually, I think my response has always been, actually, rather than sort of trying to work it all out, just go for it. And that was probably the scariest thing, sort of leaving a job and
Significant.
selling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but again, God's been so faithful, and a bit like the same when I left the National Career Service to go and work for 313. It's a step of faith. I remember Steve McFarlane, who runs 313, said, we've got the money to pay you at the moment, might not have it in a few months' time, but
Yeah.
said, if you're going to leave your job and come work for 313, you've got to know that God's calling you. Because when the bad days happen, when the finances dry up, when it's a tough day,
Yeah.
that's what you've got to remember, and that's been so true.
Yeah.
I think in any job you have the good days and the bad days, but
Yeah.
you know, but it's great knowing that you're in the right place with Jesus.
Yeah, well, let's get into that in a moment, if that's all right. But let me just kind of say a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned quite clearly YFC, Youth for Christ, that you were involved with and serving as part of the team, that, go for a year out and stayed, was it 7 or so years, he said, and
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
and obviously that amazing experience of driving the bus, etc. That sounded great. That's cool.
Great.
Just to let people know that actually next week's guest is a guy called John Hawksworth, who was director of Northeast Youth for Christ for a long time. Good friend of mine, and known him for many, many years, but now has a national role as well. So great link into who the guest is next week. And I often actually don't give the guest away next week's guest. Just like to build the tension. But I just wanted to mention it because there's quite clearly a great link in there as well. Let's cover the kind of the sound. You mentioned electronics, but is that kind of, how did you get involved with the sound kind of engineering? The kind of running the sound and things like that. You said you were head of the kind of tech team, if like in Tees Valley Community Church.
Yeah, do you know what? It's been an interesting journey. I mean, I've always, back to when I was a teenager, went to college to study electronics. Had to drop out because of ill health. But even when I was with Youth for Christ, we used to do road shows, and I was always splicing together. It was back VHS videotapes back in those days.
Come on, yeah.
And sort of, we used to have also, but we made it happen. So it gave me a real interest for, sort of doing that sort of thing. So I think over the years I'd sort of dabbled in it, and I had friends who were much better at it than me. But then I had a good friend called Chris in Norwich, and it was when J. John brought Just 10 to and I ended up getting roped in, doing the video work for it, and that was brilliant. We we did it was like 10 weeks of every evening at the Norfolk Showground doing video work and PA, and that ended up getting involved in all sorts of areas. But it wasn't really until it probably went dormant for a few years, and always sort of kept my hand in, but really it was only when I came to Tees Valley Community Church, I arrived, sort of thinking, where can I serve, and obviously spotted the sound desk and went to have a little look, and I think 3 weeks later I was doing sound or something.
Yeah, that's the thing,
was
isn't it?
interesting.
Yeah, you show a mild interest, it's like you're on the team, come on.
Yeah, that's it. But it was so very quickly do you know what, I landed at a new church, and I thought, God's called me here, how can I serve, how can I get stuck in?
Yeah, great.
And that was an area of need, and I thought, well, it's often the area nobody else wants to do, because when things go wrong in the tech, everybody points at the sound guy.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Ended up sort of taking that team on, developing it, and particularly over the last couple of years, mentioned earlier COVID, and the streaming side of things, that was a huge thing, so we sort of as a team we put video cameras in, big video screens, just before COVID hit, and then we had to progress to streaming online, and we're still developing that, but so it's I'm not the best, I've got a great team. I've got guys on the team that know far, much more than myself. But that's the great thing about team, everybody has their individual talents, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should reference Mr. Ian Chilton at this point, who I'd like to, give him the term of the golden anorak, that kind of stuff. Because, I mean, actually, another guest, a good friend of ours is online as well. I can see from his comments that he said, that a similar vein is Mr. Mike Connolly, who just loves that technical aspect of knowing what all the software does on the desk and things like God integrate. So they're a wonderful species, and we absolutely love them. And it's great to hear that because, like you said, I know we were laughing a little bit, but it's quite true. It's amazing, isn't it, how nobody notices when it's the technical side's going well, whether it be visual or and it's facilitating. It's such an important role, and actually very much part of the worship team, because the worship team is much more than the musicians, etc. on the stage, maybe. And so the visuals and the sound and the production element of that is so important. And because everybody notices when it goes wrong, don't they? And it's such a pressure job. You do visuals on a Sunday morning, then it really is a pressure job and stuff like that. So
it's the bit where the wrong words go up on the screen at the front, and the whole congregation turns around and looks at you. I decide.
I do know at the TVC you've got a lovely, great big sound desk that you can hide with monitors and things on that. We're a little bit more exposed at Embrace Church, but there we go. We are. There we go. And I'll just let me put on Mike's kind of responded to that. Let me put a comment on the screen. There we go. Mr. Mike Connolly saying, "Who, me? No. Indeed, worshiping God through tech. Absolutely, it is an act of worship." Whilst we've got, obviously we said we want to make this interactive. Whilst we've got kind of comments on screen, and I've been monitoring on my other, monitoring on my other monitor. That makes sense, doesn't it? Having a look at them on my other monitor here, just to my left here. Let me put this question on here that Paul's asked. So, is there anything God is specifically talking to you about currently in terms of prophetic words for your future, work, church, or life-wise, like you say? Isn't it? Nice big question, as always, from Paul.
Ooh,
pretty big one. We could spend the rest of the session talking about that, sure, but let me pop it back on screen.
Thanks, Paul, for stitching me up. Yeah, that's great. So, Paul was round mine last night till about 10 o'clock. We were working on some videos together, and so he's a good friend, is Paul. I think it's interesting. I think with the prophetic, I think very much at the moment, I'm living in the sort of the prophetic that God gave me. And it would be 10 years ago, and it took time to come to fulfillment. But that's an interesting question, because at the moment, God hasn't said anything different. And I know I'm, called to sort of leadership, called to serving, wherever I can. And
Absolutely.
And I think my role at 313 is that is sitting in the prophetic, and when I look back at prophetic words over the years that I've had and how God has shaped my life, it's amazing, because even down to specific things, I thought, well, that has no context. It does now, because God's brought me into the goodness of that. And I think with the prophetic, it's people sometimes get a bit impatient for it, and I'm loving it, because actually I'm living in the goodness of what God said 10 years ago. But it's a good question. I haven't nothing recently for any changes or anything different.
So you're in the place, like you say, that you're living in that prophetic right now, which is amazing. And God certainly has plans to prosper us all, and again, it will no doubt, we don't know, like you say, may well speak into a new season. We don't know what'll happen, but you're, like you say, it's quite clear. You've said in a number of different periods of your life, and about serving, you've mentioned serving, and and clearly that is your heart, and you mentioned, actually they go hand in hand, on serving and leadership, and absolutely, and so on. So listen, why don't I play the 313 promo video that we've kind of queued, and then it would be good to focus on 313 in particular. All right, why don't we play that? Here we go. Right. So, great, obviously just to give a flavour of what 313 is all about. And obviously we saw the good looking fella in there doing some teaching,
I know, wasn't
again.
he great?
Yeah,
Wasn't he great?
absolutely. Couldn't hear what he was saying, but, obviously it
Yeah.
looked good, that kind of thing. So, I was going to kind of pull things out, but actually, I just think I'm going to shut up and just let you talk because obviously, this is an area that you're passionate about. I'm sure, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Tell us about 313. Then, what's it all about and where to
Yeah,
come.
313 came out of Tees Valley Community Church about 10 years ago. So long before my time, I was involved, and it was set up under sort of the charitable social action part of Tees Valley Community Church called Tees Valley Community Projects. And some things that are involved in the community, and things like Daniel Challenge that was part of sort of Taking Ground, and at the time, all came under that. But back in 2016, 313, or Academy 313 as it was known then, set up, became an official training provider,
Yeah.
and they became accredited with City and Guilds, NOCN, BTEC, to deliver courses up to level 7. And so they're involved in running leadership and management courses with a Christian ethos to it, and that's been brilliant. So the leadership and management course that we run, it's just been great. It's helped me just embed some real solid sort of skills for leadership, I suppose, in that. And then that sort of developed. We won a few small contracts with local councils to run sort of what I call short courses.
Yeah.
And some of those were in Middlesbrough, some were in Durham, and and it was all very, we were travelling around running different courses in different places. But then, there was some prophetic given. There was a real feeling that God actually wanted us to sort of come back to one place, which was the Oakwood Centre, the home of Tees Valley Community Church. For those of you who haven't been there, we've got a 9-acre site. It's 12 acres if I'm exaggerating on days, but I think it's between 9 and 12 acres.
Yeah.
And we've got a woodland area, we've got a massive car park, but we've got a lot of land. And so what we've been able to do is been able to set up some projects on the site, and deliver training courses to help people connect and get back into employment. So over the years things have sort of developed and changed, and really what 313 looks like at the moment. We've grown and expanded, so we've got our hub at the Oakwood Centre.
Yeah.
We've just recently established a hub in Sunderland, working with Colin up there. Colin works for us, and he leads the hub up there, along with another colleague, John. We've got some work in Durham and some work in Newcastle as well. So God is starting to expand again, but very much with purpose. And so, yeah, I suppose I joined 313 3 years ago, and when I first heard about 313, I thought God again got hold of me, and it was like I just felt really, I want to work for these guys. I felt this, it tied in with the prophetic that I'd been given, and I just thought, yeah, that's what God's calling me to. So I sat down with Martin Dunkley at One Transform and just told him, and Martin sort of said, yeah, okay, let's pray about this, let's see what happens. And I used to work with 313 when I worked for the career service. I used to promote them, refer people onto the courses there. And I got a phone call one day saying, from Steve McFarland, saying, we've got a new contract. We've got a contract with the National Probation Service, and to help get some ex-offenders into work. Would you like to come and work for us? We've got money for a year. Let's see what happens. And we're coming up to my 3rd year in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
So it's great. So what do we do? Our main focus really is about transforming lives. And people might be thinking, where does the name 313 come from? Well, it's based on the Bible verse, Philippians 3:13. Which to read it, it says, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. So we're all about people forgetting the past
Yeah.
looking forward for what's ahead, and that sort of become really, really, that's spoken massively into people's lives. We see a lot of people who are broken, from different backgrounds, and when people come in, as soon as we say, we're Christians, we're here, you're in a church. Actually, 313 is all about forgetting the past and looking forward to the future.
Fantastic. Yeah.
People, we've never had a problem with anybody sort of saying, oh, what's all this God stuff about, and people are really open, and we're seeing lives transformed. So, the whole vision of 313 is changing lives across Teesside, across the northeast, because we know that, if somebody can find Jesus, if we can help somebody get a job, actually, it saves broken families. We see whole families coming to Christ
Yeah.
through it. We see poverty being lifted. If we can help somebody get a job, that means that might save that person from, debt, a life on drugs, and actually that has an impact for not just them but for their whole family as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's so our vision is really to sort of give hope, help people build relationships, but give people a hope for the future, and we tailor what we do to sort of enable that. So our main sort of program we run in Teesside is something called the Advance program, and it's a 4-week program where we offer work experience, and that's based at the Oakwood Centre, and we've got 7 different sort of project areas, and I'm gonna have to look at my flyer.
Yeah,
So
that's
here we
absolutely
go.
fine.
There you
Yeah.
go, just so I can, because I always forget one when I'm talking on air. Um, so that the whole there's lots of training provision out there, which is it's fantastic. But what we found is a lot of people say, yeah, it's all sitting in the classroom. I've just done a warehouse course, but I've been sat in the classroom for 2 weeks. So
Right.
we wanted to offer something different. So the advanced program is a 4-day-a-week program for 4 weeks. 2 days a week, people get the opportunity to work in their pathway of choice, which is practical, hands-on. And we've got a fantastic team of pathway supervisors who are there to motivate, encourage, share the gospel with people, just help them build their skills. And then the other 2 days, we're looking at things like team building skills, employability. I run workshops on how to look for work. We role connecting with employers. We bring employers in. We take our learners straight out to employers to get them job opportunities and jobs. So I think we're and they get a level 1 qualification at the same time as well. So at the moment, I was in one of the local job centres today, and from their words, not mine. We love what you do. We've got such a high reputation within the sector.
Fantastic.
And I was just doing a bit of research here, and I remember we had a Ministry of Justice came to have a look at the work we were doing with probation service just before COVID. And one of their quotes was that what we're doing here in the northeast, and particularly at the Oakwood Centre, is sort of almost like the gold standard for some of the work of probation doing. And
Amazing.
I know sort of often they sort of said we'd love this in other parts of the country as well. So we've got a good reputation, for getting people jobs. So the different pathways we offer, we do business admin. We do cleaning. We work with a local cleaning company based at, who come in and clean the Oakwood. Fantastic. The owners of the cleaning company recently gave their lives to Jesus.
Amazing.
So they moved to TVC Church. We've got a fantastic horticulture and landscaping centre, and so we're building a community garden. We've got polytunnels, and that's great. We find a lot of people come and want to do the outside projects, particularly people struggling with their mental health, and they just want that peace and just opportunity just to do something slightly different. We do manufacturing. We work with some local manufacturing companies, so we've got a couple of big companies down the road. We've worked with the Tetley Tea Factory, which are based opposite us.
Yeah.
And again, they've taken people on and given them jobs. And we do hospitality. We've got the Oakwood coffee shop. obviously in the open
Tremendous.
centre. Yeah, so we do catering in the kitchens. We've got the coffee shops, so we're able to do hospitality, and also people get involved with the sort of the parent and toddler groups that are based there as well. And that sort of gives people a real opportunity to sort of learn those skills. And then the other exciting thing is as well, we've got the Message Trust community grocery, and I won't go too much into that, but their distribution for their food is
Yeah.
for their grocery stores is based at ours as well. So we do warehousing as well.
Right.
So it's a great program, and it's we're just seeing loads of people's lives transformed. I'm going to give you a few stats here.
Love it. Go on.
So
Go on.
in the last 9 months, so since September, we've helped 44 people move into employment.
Wow.
And that's 44 people we know of. So often when we ring them to say how you doing, we can't get hold of them. The reason is probably they're working as well. This is the best bit though. We've seen 40 people give their lives to Christ.
Come on. Amazing.
Yeah, 40 people.
Superb.
I mean, yeah, a few weeks ago it was like, it was almost like one a day. And I'll be honest, been a Christian, for many years, and somebody said to me, "You're going to be involved in the job where people are going to get sent from the job centre and other places. People are going to leave prison, they're going to come to you for help, and actually they're going to walk through the door and give their lives to Jesus." I would have said, "Nah, no way." But God's a faithful God,
Amen.
and we've got some. I mean, I think the quickest one guy we had, he came at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, and by 10:30 he was giving his life to Christ.
Come on. Love
And
it.
I'd like, no way, this is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we've seen 40 lives transformed. We've helped 12 people change their housing situation, 17 people with debt and finance. We work with partners like CAP, Christians Against Poverty, and about 37 people have received support for food through the community grocer and other means as well.
Yeah.
So we are about seeing people's lives transformed, and I love it. We had on Sunday there was 3 learners there at TVC Church. A guy called James, who gave his life a couple of weeks ago, and he rocked up on Sunday morning. He said, "Martin," he said, "just want to let you know, I've been talking to my mates about Jesus, and one of them had a health issue, and I prayed for him today, and he got healed." And I'm like, "Wow, this guy's only been a Christian like 3 weeks." And
Come on.
we had another guy who he rang up and he said, "Martin," he said, "I know you do the tech." In fact, it was the guy who. So the video we've just watched was actually filmed and edited by one of the learners that came on our
Brilliant.
program. And he said, "I know you do tech at church." He says, "Can I come along and help?" So on Sunday, he turned up at church, just said, "I want to join your tech team." Now, as far as we're aware, he hasn't made a commitment to Christ yet, but he just says, "I want to be there." We had another guy who, a few weeks ago, we had 6 313 learners baptized on a Sunday morning. And
Brilliant.
these are people, these aren't just people that saying, "Yeah, I'd like to pray that prayer," and then they don't follow it through. You get the odd one, but actually we're seeing people whose lives are genuinely transformed by the power of God, which is amazing.
Oh man, that's so amazing and encouraging. And thank you for sharing all that, because wow, it must be amazing to be, like you say, working in a place like that where it's just seeing God impact and, like you said, transforming lives practically from. And I love that kind of leaving the past and focusing going forward and seeing exactly that. And wow, I'm blown away. Like I said, I knew 313 was good, but it's just hearing some of those kind of stats and they're not just stats, they're not just figures, they're real people.
That's it.
And
I think the biggest problem we have people come for the 4 weeks, and at the end of the 4 weeks, they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
People recognize, they say there's something different about this place. I've been on courses with job centres and people before, but what's different? And that's where the penny drops. And it's like, it's the presence of God in the building. And we've even had, I won't mention the provider, but we had a provider visit, somebody else that works in the sector, a non-Christian provider, and one of the people that came to look round ended up she came backwards and forwards and did some work with us. And a couple of months ago, she gave her life to Christ whilst looking around what we're doing.
Oh,
And
amazing,
um,
amazing.
so it's we it's amazing. It is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I'll be honest. Every week, I'm blown away with what God's doing, and it's that transformation.
yeah.
I think we get the privilege of seeing somebody become a Christian, but actually seeing them on that journey, and their lives being transformed.
Yeah, amen,
Jesus
amen.
as well.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just looking obviously at the comments and things. I know Paul's made some comments there about certain qualifications and things like that, and there's some technical aspects of that.
Yeah,
But I'm just conscious of time. So Paul, sorry, we're not going to get to them, but I'm sure what I'm going to do in the moment actually is I'm just going to kind of put. Martin and 313's contact details on screen, so you can because no doubt people are I'm just blown away. It's just amazing to hear how God is moving through 313, and thank you God for all that you're doing in transforming hearts and lives, and the amazing people like yourself, Martin, and others who are part of that team that are making that happen and serving in that way. And like I said, just being the hands and feet of God, just being used and vessels, which is amazing. So, people are no doubt going to be inspired by this. And listen, if you're not, well, first of all, I would wonder, if there's something wrong with you. We need to support 313. Listen, everybody needs to support 313, and I'm sure you can do that in lots of different ways. Why don't I put your contact details on screen and tell us how we can support
yeah.
313 going forward, if you would.
Yeah, I think the main one is pray. Prayer. We big challenges we have. Most of our finances come from a few government contracts, but we also rely on a lot of grants.
Yeah,
So we put in funding applications for grants, and that allows us to do things like that we can't get funding for, and that's really important. That allows us to give that holistic care, that wraparound support. So praying for that, but praying just for more people to get referred to us. We were in the staff prayer meeting this morning, was saying actually what we do is pointless unless we've got people there to hear the gospel, and we want more people coming through the doors of 313 that can hear the gospel.
yeah.
So the more people there, the more people can hear about God and get transformed.
So
Uh,
let's just say some, I mean, hopefully, no doubt. And listen, we've got a part to play this. If you're sat here and you're thinking, I know some people who would really benefit from this. Listen, forward, Martin and 313's details. Post this if you want to, so they can hear more. Point them towards the website. There's another great video. I really enjoyed watching it personally, where you hear from somebody else's experience of actually being involved in the program, and you hear from, like I say, one of the employers who.
yeah.
It's a cleaning lady. Is it the same cleaning lady that you referred to earlier on? Is that a different
Yes.
company?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
marvelous. Yeah, fantastic. But then you kind of you hear all of that. There's another one on there, so really check out the website and things. It's really, really important. But what about if somebody sat there and thinking, I could really benefit from this? What do they need to do? How
Yeah, I mean the program. If anybody's interested in coming along, then give us a ring. I think you put the number up on the screen there.
yeah,
Give us a ring. We're quite happy to have a chat about it with you. I can give you a call. Have a look at our website. Some good details on there. But yeah, if you're out of work, or maybe we've got it's not just people that are unemployed, it's people that might be what we call economically inactive. So,
yeah,
you might sort of not be working but not on benefits. Then we can have a chat with you and see how we can help.
yeah.
And I would say if there's things that we can't help with, we can steer you in the right direction. I think the one final thing, if people want to get involved, we're always looking for people to come and volunteer and help. Well, the great thing is we've got a good team of people that come in. I think our oldest is 84. He comes in and he just sits and has a chats with people, and
Yeah.
he's led many people to the Lord just through having coffee with people. It might be that you can come and help somebody apply for a job or type up a CV.
Yeah.
Some practical things that or actually you can help somebody sort of fill out a form for housing benefit or something like that. It's or just you want to come along, so get in touch and we're happy to have a chat, see how you can get involved.
Amazing. Amazing. Let me just put this on screen because I know Mike Connolly, like I said, is a good friend of mine, and he's obviously referenced his son there, and obviously really benefited from involvement with 313 and the advanced program in particular. So again, there's just Mike just testifying to what you've been saying, and then, again, it's great to hear that. I mean, I'm blown away by those stats, which is amazing. And I know we call them stats, but they're real people and real lives and things. Absolutely, it's incredible. Martin, I've found it so inspiring, and again, if you would, from my point of view, and obviously those of us who are listening, and if you're watching this, we need to get involved. We need to pray at the very least for 313, and we need to, if you can support them financially, get involved, practically. Have a chat, at least follow them on 313 social channels and get in touch with Martin and the team and just say,
be great.
Look, I want to help. I want to do something. That's important. Because it's such an amazing ministry, amazing work, and so on. And we're seeing lives changed in so many different ways. It's fantastic. Martin, thank you. Would you just go and thank the rest of the team at some point? Just mention this and just say. Yeah. If nothing else, from my point of view, thank you, for all that you're doing. And, again, it's great to hear. And, I'm going to stop waffling a little bit now, really. But like you say, just get in touch and follow up. Let me just put this on, because I was very rude. And Paul, Mr. Saxton, did say that I was very rude for not posting his question. So I better give him the last kind of comment on the screen just to say, how much he's loved it and how much you think. And I echo this as really a fantastic guy, amazing stories of how God's working through you and speaking to you as well. So that, again, thanks, Martin, for giving. I mean, with time's beating us, I always say I think time speeds up during 8 and 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. But thanks for giving up your evening and joining us on tonight. And
been a pleasure. Have
you enjoyed it? It's been all right.
It's been really good, actually.
Good stuff.
Do you know what? And I think just. It does use it when you're doing something like this. You God reminds you of everything He's done, and that's the great thing about it. This is all down to God.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So if you just want to, I'm going to wrap things up for tonight. So if you just want to hang on, and I will just have a quick kind of chat afterwards, and when we're disconnected. So thank you ever so much. I'm just going to kind of just quickly put your details on again, just so people can get in touch. But we, obviously you can. Just head over to the Facebook page for 313, etc., and get all of their contact details as well. All right. So, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I mean, it's been great. To kind of find out more about 313 and hear those amazing stories. And again, I just want to make the point: these are not stats; these are real people whose lives have been transformed practically, and through the 313 team demonstrating. Excuse me. I was hoping I could get through a whole episode without coughing into the microphone, but I didn't quite manage it. But the team practically, loving it, demonstrating God's love for them, but practically helping them in lives, like you say, looking forward, moving on from the past, looking forward. So, please do head over and follow, if nothing else, but, 313 on the social channels, get involved and so on. Whilst we're talking about that, because again, I'm just going to put this on screen, just another kind of heads up about what I was saying earlier about Embrace Church being on the move. Would you pray for Embrace Church as well? Just we kind of enter in this challenging area. It's an area of dancing where people like many other places are facing real challenges, and so we'd really value your prayers. And again, if you can get involved in some way, if you want to know more, then please just get in touch. It would be really helpful. I coughed twice now. That's really upsetting. All right, it'd be really helpful if you would as well get in touch and actually just head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. That would be really helpful. If you want to know more about Embrace Church, then you can head over to our website and obviously get in touch with us as well. We'd love to hear from you and chat with you more and more as well. All right, so. Thank you very much for giving up another Wednesday night. It's great. Set your reminder for next week. In fact, set your reminder for every week, Wednesday, 8 o'clock. We're going to about the beginning of August, like I said, then we'll break for the summer. But it'd be great if you can join us. And thank you everyone who's joined us online, the likes of Mr. Paul Saxton and Sue and Mike and many others who have joined us. And if you're catching up afterwards, then thank you for doing so. But listen, one more time, get involved, get in touch with 313 and keep them in your prayers. All right, bless you. See you next week. Have a good week. Thank you.